Hey folks, it's Robin Robbins here, founder of MSP Success Magazine. I am here with another titan of our industry, Mark Clayman, who is CEO of Netrio. Mark and Netrio is a North American MSP. They're focused on small and mid-sized businesses. Mark it looks like he is just a serial badass kind of entrepreneur. He has served as CEO of Navisite. You're not supposed to laugh when I say that. You're supposed to be like, yes, of course, Navisite until its acquisition of Accenture in 2024. His previous leadership roles include serving as CEO of RDX, which was also then later acquired by Navisite in 2019, and President and CEO of Tricor Solutions, later acquired by Rackspace. Throughout his career, he has demonstrated expertise in corporate strategies, scaling operations, successfully integrating multiple businesses to create a unified customer-focused organization, which is what I think he's doing with Netrio. And so I'm very excited to talk to you today, Mark. Thanks for being here.
Well, thanks for having me, Robin. And that was a good background. I never would have done that well myself. So I tend to forget a lot of things that we've done over the years.
Yeah. So I just, I guess, a couple of questions. I'm always curious. So with which one of these did you start up? Was Tricor one of your original startups, and now this one? Or did you grow that from a startup? Because the others, it seems like you joined in senior. Yeah.
Yeah, I think in all cases, I really have joined in senior leadership roles at different stages. I've never, it's kind of interesting. I've never been a founder of a company, and I think that that's a very different personality and approach and a style. And I really do. I work with a lot of founder owners, and I truly do empathize. And I always admire kind of how they've built something from really nothing, just a thought and an idea. They bootstrapped it. They've created their own culture. They've managed the financials around it. They've avoided kind of taking, investors in and maybe putting on debt and kind of changing the way that, their vision of how they want to grow a company. But what I've always found myself, fairly good at, and what I've learned over the years is kind of how to take a look at a company and really try and identify the good bones, the good culture, the talent, the customer base, and to really help a founder think about different growth strategies and how they can actually add more talent, think about the market in a different way, think about services in a different way, and really help them grow an organization. So I've always come in a little bit, well, not a little bit, but well after somebody has started a company and help them think about growth, taking on investors, helping them think about an exit, because that's what most of them really want to do, and build a strategy around that.
Yeah. Well, and that's it. I mean, that is a skill in and of itself, because there are a lot of founders who are not necessarily the ones to get it to where you are, where you're going through mergers, acquisitions, getting investors behind it, private equity, venture capital, those kinds of things. Yep. So it is a different skill. It's interesting. People who can start something and build it, that's typically what they like to do. And it takes another skill set entirely to take it from that, whatever that good start is, and scale it up from there. So, yeah.
And I would say that, one of the things that and look, you can't group all founders into the same bucket, but more times than not, the business becomes almost too personal for them, right? So they get this cloud of being able to really think about taking on some additional risk, engaging with investors, thinking about something larger than what they built before. And there's this weird dynamic where they want that, but then it's hard for them to change what they've built. And that's kind of what I help them kind of think about. And it's not, I don't think that we've ever, and when I say we, myself and a few other folks that have always worked together, we're not overly aggressive on that, but we help them kind of think about, okay, over the next couple of years, how can you think about this organization in a different way? How can you think about the talent and, maybe removing some of the friendships they built over the past, 5, 10, 15 years, and think about those folks in terms of helping them achieve what they're ultimately helping to achieve, which is, get the most amount of value for the organizations that they developed and built.
Yeah, exactly. So tell me about Netrio. Talk about like, how did you get the idea? Why did you decide to go into the MSP industry? What's your strategy? Just kind of give us that lay of the land.
Yeah, so maybe I'll start with the last question, which is I've always been in kind of the IT services space, so
Mhm.
I know that very well, and have worked with customers that are very small, less than 100 employees, and I've worked with customers that are well into the enterprise, 10, $20 billion and above, and everybody kind of in between. So I know the space fairly well in terms of pain points, dynamics, go-to-market motions. What Netrio has recently been a combination of three smaller MSPs that are coming together. And there was a private equity firm that stepped in a little bit over a year ago, working with founder owners of companies anywhere from as short as maybe 10 or 15 years to as long as 25 to 30 years of them building their businesses. And the private equity firm had a thesis that they really wanted to bring together three companies, build a platform, and then think about how they can differentiate themselves in the market, whether that be through scale, whether it be through services offering, target markets, skill sets, et cetera. They were looking for a management team to come in and really help bring these organizations together, and then ultimately think about the strategy going forward, both from an organic growth standpoint, but also from an M&A and an integration standpoint. So I started talking to the private equity firm L Squared sometime last summer, and you need to kind of build a relationship with a private equity firm and really make sure that not only from a strategy standpoint, but I think also a cultural and a personality standpoint, that there's a good fit, right? You can feel comfortable about there's going to be good times and there's going to be tough times over the course of the engagement. And you want to make sure that when you get into those tough times that you're with a group that understands where you have baseline the organization, where you have baseline the strategy, and that you can figure your way out of it. And, we talked to a number of different folks, and we just felt that what L Squared wanted to do with this organization, then the amount of resources that they wanted to continue to put behind it in terms of investing in Netrio, but then also thinking about acquisitions, was something that we'd like to do and something that, we were pretty encouraged about.
Right. That's great. Yeah. So they brought you in, the private equity firm brought you in, or did you
That's
have
right.
one?
Yeah. So
Okay.
I joined. Yeah. They brought me in last September. It was right after the second acquisition. So Netrio was made up initially of Success Computer Consulting based up in Minneapolis, Netrio, who we ultimately adopted the brand, that was based out of McKinney, Texas, and PCA Technology Group, which is based up in Buffalo, kind of Western New York. So I came in right in between Netrio and PCA getting acquired, and really was tasked with helping the company think about how do we integrate these companies together? How do we identify ourselves as one brand, one go-to-market strategy, one service delivery platform, and then thinking about all the tactical things about, bringing together common systems, common org structure, et cetera. But that's what we're in the process of doing today. And then, thinking about additional acquisitions as well, too.
Now I'm curious because like they're three very distinct locations, right? So they're not close. I believe your goal is to be, to build a platform that services all of North America, right? So you're not looking to stay local. But so tell me about that strategy. Like why those three? I guess some of them had already been started, but are you were those locations strategic? Are you looking to go kind of talk about that?
Yeah, there's all three companies do somewhat similar things. There's nuances to them, and some of the companies have a little bit of a different service line than other companies. So there's a lot of good synergies in terms of the three companies together and having a broader portfolio of services, which is great. Not to get off on too much of a tangent, but look, ultimately our goal is when we're engaged with a customer, and let's just say we sell them one service, end user support, but then we can work with them on security services or backup services or public cloud support, Office 365, network as a service, delivering connectivity. Ultimately, our goal is to service as many different IT functions with that customer as possible. The benefit for the customer is that they get a lot of synergies in terms of working with one partner, and they're able to consolidate a lot of different partners. So there's a lot of good things that come out of a relationship where we're doing a lot of different things for a single customer in terms of operational synergies, but also costs and contracts and things like that. The three different groups have two different, I would say, two different distinct go-to-market strategies. PCA success local to the market, so PCA local to Buffalo, Western New York. Success local to Minneapolis. They have a very direct selling market. They only focus in those particular regions. They have a very close relationship with those customers, even from an on-site perspective in terms of the services that they're performing. Netrio is a little bit different. They do have that aspect of their go-to-market strategy in terms of Dallas, Northern Dallas community, but they also sell through an agent market where they have partners that are out within North America that are building relationships with their customers that are looking to partner with a service provider like us. And our go-to-market strategy is much more of a channel-focused, kind of market opportunity. So two very different selling models. Going forward, we'd like to find additional regions where we can actually have that local presence and sell direct, and then continue to expand our channel go-to-market strategy as well too. So now very distinct.
Yeah. So when you say channel, are you talking sort of like a strategic partnership where there's somebody who is bringing you into their customers? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, and I would say that the channel market, look, there's a lot of different, I hate to say there's many, but let's just say there's two ends of the spectrum, right? I would say that there's the partner and channel community that has a relationship with customers, but they don't really have any other services, right? They're almost an advisor for that company. And the company might come to them and say, look, I need to have a new security solution and a security posture for my organization. Can you recommend a couple of different MSPs that I could work with and think about? And they'll bring us into that conversation. We'll compete with the other providers, and then we'll stick with that advisor in terms of the ongoing relationship and going through renewals and add-on services, and both organizations as well as the customer hopefully benefits the customer from our services, and obviously us commercially with a new customer, and then the advisor gets a commission from us in terms of the relationship. Then I would say that you've got other partners where they do have IT services. They might be a VAR. They're helping a customer think about architecture, strategy, roadmaps, but they might not have the managed services capabilities that we have. So there's a much tighter, I would say, operational relationship on a day-to-day basis, month-to-month basis that we form with that type of a partner. So it just kind of depends on the partner, their go-to-market strategy, the skill sets or services that they have to offer. But we cover kind of both ends of that spectrum, and then the people that are kind of that gray area in between.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Because one of the strategies I love and I teach all of our members is finding those strategic partners who have customers that would be great customers for you, and they have the relationship and they're not competing direct with you, but in some way what you bring to the table helps and supports their customers. There's alignment, and so whether that's sometimes financially, obviously they're getting a financial component to that, but it could be beyond that. It could be just that, like your VAR relationship, you're saying, if they have a trusted MSP in there, then one, they can recommend it and, not lose that customer relationship. It's like, you brought these knuckleheads in here screwing our, so one, you got to, well, right? I mean, because they have to have that trust, but also that MSP is not undoing what the VAR is selling. They're supporting what the VAR is doing, and you're working together so that they look good to their customers. So, I love that, that we call them JV partnerships, strategic partnerships, promotional partnerships. You're saying a channel. There's a lot of different ways you describe it, but that's the strategy. And I think that's what you're talking about, right? As far as developing those things.
Absolutely. And I would say to a lot of MSPs that, might only be in one specific region, a smaller market. It's natural to think about kind of the IT kind of partners that are engaged with customers, or an advisor that might be looking for an MSP. But, I wouldn't look past like any type of an advisory, a tax advisor, a financial advisor, a legal advisor that's working with a lot of small businesses that when they're having conversations with a customer might say, hey, do you know somebody that can manage my server infrastructure or do end user support or help me with security? And those could be good, not obvious, but good partners as well too.
Yeah, I mean, I have a one member who has a great national partner that provides tools and software to furniture manufacturers. And
Yep.
so they're selling them these tools and they're run by technology, and they get the phone call when the tech's not working, and they can't, now he's got a great partnership. They bring him in, and he makes sure the environment, the network, the internet, the whatever, all can
It works.
yeah, it can work so that the software works, right? And they handle all those tech support calls. So it's a great partnership. So you're right. I think just being creative and thinking about who are these people who have the customers we want access to, and how do we align to support them to serve their customers, and even give them a profit stream that doesn't require that partner to do sales and marketing, to hire a team,
Yep.
to do operations. You know what I mean? Like it's a referral partnership. So I love that strategy. It's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I love that example that you just gave, because so many times a great technology solution for a good target market / industry might not be successful because the end customer doesn't have, the resources to really support the product and the tool.
Right.
So to bring in a partner that can really kind of make sure that the customer's getting, that return on their investment, that it performs well, that their customer experience is excellent, it's helping all three parties. So good scenario.
Yeah. And because then the customer's not coming back to the manufacturer going, your tools suck and your software sucks. You know what I mean? Because that's what happens, right?
That's right.
So yeah,
Yep.
because they don't know
Yep.
different. Right.
Yep.
Okay. So I want to ask you about differentiation. It was interesting. I was just having a call yesterday with an MSP that is really struggling right now. And one of the things that they commented on is they're losing customers to larger MSPs, and they were like, yeah, these private equity guys, they come in and they're changing the marketplace. He was kind of complaining about it. And, but you still have the same challenges of customer acquisition as the small guys, right? I mean, it's still, you got to go out there, you got to develop interest and trust and convert and all those things. So, I would say I guess, first of all, do you see the MSP marketplace as saturated? I mean, like really saturated. I mean, there's levels, like super saturated, or are there still pockets of opportunity? And then how do you differentiate? If someone's like you have this vision, how are you planning on differentiating?
Yeah, look, I think to the first question, I do not think it's saturated at all. I think, if anything, there's been this momentum, definitely in kind of the mid market and below, for these types of customers that are on the smaller size to think about outsourcing functions, right? Because they realize that the pace of technology has completely outpaced their ability to bring in internal talent to support it and take advantage of it. And, look, are there companies out there that do not believe that they are tech enabled? Sure, that's fine. My angle in the market and just, the industries in general is that if you're not thinking about a tech enabled organization, you're eventually going to fall behind. To me, it's just a fact. But again, there are companies that still don't put a lot of value in technology in terms of enabling their business. So I think that there's a lot of leaders in organizations out there that believe that if they don't invest technology in a smart way, if they don't have the right talent and partners and advisors and consultants, that they're going to start to fall behind from a competitive nature. And they're going to experience the same types of challenge that a small MSP would experience as well too. So in terms of differentiation, I think about it from a few different ways. One is, look, we do believe that scale, it does matter, right? If we're working with a customer that might be, thinking about another MSP that is, 10 to 15 people, they don't have 24/7. If they lose one person, they're losing 1/10 of their talent and maybe a really specific function that they just can't kind of plug a hole in. So we do believe that breadth and scale is very important. And that's one of the things that we have been building. The other thing is that, look, from a profitability standpoint, as we get a little bit larger, we do have the ability to reinvest in our talent a little bit more, but also our tool set. So we're now able to kind of take advantage of different technologies, different platforms that I would say, look, 90% of our customer base would never think about doing. They don't have the skill set to evaluate it, and they might not have the financial resources even to invest in it. So for us to be able to bring modern technology to customers that don't have the ability to kind of think about even how to introduce it into their organization is a differentiator. And that comes with scale as well, too. And then the third piece is really kind of thinking different about just the way that we deliver services. So a lot of people are talking about AI and Gen AI. And it needs to start becoming a very real and tangible thing for MSPs. And I think that if you're not thinking about introducing it first into the delivery of your organization to not only automate a lot of common tasks, also expand margins, build more profitability so you can reinvest back in it. But we firmly believe that becoming a better delivery organization improves the end user experience. It improves the value prop that the end user is getting from us. And it'll help differentiate us going forward. So those are three of the things that we do think about. The other thing that I would say is, going back to what you were asking about before in terms of our go-to-market strategy, part channel, part direct. The thing that I didn't mention before is that our channel brings us in a lot, what I would say, larger customers. So I would say into the lower end of the enterprise market. So think about companies that might be $1 billion of revenue and above. Our direct model is for customers that may be five to 600 employees and below. So the smaller end of the mid-market. But what that allows us to do is, as we're thinking about productizing our services and solutions, we're building that for the enterprise and delivering that to the small market. So it's a very different approach and I think feel and experience for a mid-market customer that, again, wouldn't have the ability to invest in some of the technologies that we're investing in for the enterprise to be able to benefit from those solutions and those tools. And I think that's one of the things that will set us apart from, again, the smaller MSPs that are out there.
And is there a size of customer that you think is too small that you wouldn't touch?
I don't, it hasn't been to date. We have customers that are, 50 employees or less, and there's no impact from our standpoint. It's no different than if we have a customer that might have 1,000 users and wants to add on 50 more. We have that from a fairly machine-like approach, and from a productization of those types of services for small customers, we're very capable of doing that. So I wouldn't say that, but I would say a good fit for us is customers that might be 100 to 150 users and above. And then we get into kind of very different solutions for that small end of the enterprise.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me talk to you because I know you have a good background, strong background in merging companies, and that's what you're doing here. That's, this is kind of your wheelhouse. So some of the people watching this may be looking to purchase other MSPs. And, in general, is there I know make sure you get the right people, the culture fits there, the customer fits there, the vision, those kinds of things. But once an acquisition happens, right? What are there phases? Are there critical milestones? Like, what is that you're trying, I'm sure there are, but or is it just it's just, how long does it take how long should it take? Should it take a year? Can it, longer? Just talk to me a little bit about okay, they just acquired this company. What is your roadmap?
Yeah, well, and I don't want to jump past the fact that before you even get there, you need to understand the people and the culture. We talk about technology a lot and services and solutions, but at the end of the day, the MSP business, it is a people business. You're working with customers, you're building relationships, you're trying to help them think and do better within their industry and become better operators. And that will never change. So you need to make sure that you are aligned with the company that you are thinking about acquired or just acquired in terms of the culture of the business, how they operate, how they think about customer engagement, how they think about the customer relationship, and then the growth of the customer and that long-term relationship. So that's most important. I think on day one, it is probably best that you've already kind of laid out how you're thinking about the integration of the organization. And I would just say, I think that there are really kind of two approaches. There are some companies that do acquisitions and let them run on their own as own brands. And I would say that organizations that do that, they almost set up almost like a holding company type atmosphere. And then you've got these different kind of brands in different regions and different GMs that kind of run either a region, a service line, et cetera. And look, people take that approach, and I don't want to say that it's good or bad. We've never done that. We just firmly believe for the size of the organizations that we've historically have put together, and for the size of the organization that Netrio is today, getting everybody to think about one brand, one strategy, and also integrating them from a system standpoint, from an organizational standpoint, it's the most effective and efficient way for us to communicate to the market about who we are and what we do. It's the most effective way for us to think about our employees and their career path in terms of how they evolve through the organization, whether they want to learn about different solutions, different technologies, become managers, et cetera. We just feel that it's very important to integrate these companies together. So from our standpoint, we're always very open with the target companies that we're thinking about acquiring, then ultimately acquire about, we're going to fold you into our organization. You're going to become part of the Netrio brand. You're going to be part of our organization as well, too. And we're going to think about the best people, the best talent, the best tools, the best approach. We're just not going to take what we have in place today. We're looking at this organization for a couple of different reasons, or a few. Talent, the way that they approach delivery and go to market, and the customer base as well, too. And we want to make sure that those all fit. And we want that customer to feel that if we just brought in a new solution, so one of the organizations that we acquired has application development services, which is a little bit unique to the MSP market. If we were continuing to go out to the legacy Netrio customers and the legacy Success customers and saying, hey, I'm a rep from PCA Technology Group and I have app dev services, our customers wouldn't understand, right? Do I have to have a new contract? Are you going to bill me in a different way? Are there different rates? Should I be working with this person at all? We want to make sure that it's really easy for all of our customers to understand who we are. We're one group. We're one team. We're trying to partner with you. And we just feel that it's really important from, again, brand efficiency, operations as well, too, and just in terms of integrating the companies.
How long does it typically take? I mean, like I guess, how long's a piece of string, right? When is it done? That sort of thing. But when you acquire a company, roughly how long before things are really kind of cranking, where everybody's integrated?
I would say, look, I would say that you can get a lot done organizationally and system-wise within 6 to 9 months. I'd say that until it gets really cranking, to your specific question, and truly breaking down the legacy attachment to a brand, legacy attachment to a process, a person, an approach, it could take a year, maybe even a little bit longer. Those are hard things. And, there's a couple of different things that can really get in the way of that. Process is one of them, right? So if you leave different systems out there, people will always tend to just go back to what they've done before. So that's one thing to watch out for. And then, regionality is another one. We've got people that have always been in Texas, always been in Minneapolis, always been up in Buffalo. Getting them to understand that they now have teammates in other regions and they need to work together. And so the NOC needs to work with the NOC that's in Minneapolis, the NOC that's in Texas, and use support, level 1 support. We're now kind of handling tickets between different regions as well, too. Making sure that you're breaking down those barriers that are not tangible, but they're these regional barriers that people have to know that you have team members that you need to share resources and breadth as well too in terms of skill set. That's hard, and getting people to kind of move around and think about a broader organization outside of what they have historically known, that takes a lot of reminding. So never lose sight of that as well too. It's really. Culture is a big thing, and getting people to kind of believe and wrap their heads around, again, that single brand, single organization structure, meeting new people, thinking about different approaches. It's a hard thing to do, but in the end, it is kind of that 1 + 1 = 3.
Yeah, well, culture, people, I mean, like business is great outside of the people, right? I mean, everybody kind of say, you know what I mean? Like, if it wasn't for
We're all
these damn
people.
people, everything would be great. But yeah, I think that's the hardest. I mean, I think universally that's the hardest thing, getting the right people in the right seats, aligned, working together, productive, being on guard for drama and dissenters and, disruptors and,
Yeah.
naysay. It's just, it never ends. And I would imagine, like, how many employees do you guys have now total?
And so we're a little bit over 250 employees. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, do you go into offices and not know people's names? Because that happens in my org. Sometime I'll like walk in and I'm like, oh, I
Well,
don't know this person.
look, I do, but
Yeah.
it's a lot because I just have a really hard time remembering names, which I should
I
just be
know,
better
but
at. That's a piece of
it's
it. But then,
always,
but
yeah. I'm
yeah,
not trying to pick on you. I'm saying this because for my own, like,
no,
because
no.
I go to my own events and there's people wearing our logo shirt and I'm like, I don't know who that person is, and it's someone they had just hired like a week ago and like, hey, need the info, but so it's funny.
Yeah, but then I would say on the other side of that, Gina Murphy, our president and chief transformation officer, she'll go into every office and she'll know everybody's name, and I'm looking there like, how do you do this? And so you get that aspect of it as well too, and it's a good balance as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So,
yeah.
all right. So you mentioned AI. Is there, as you look forward this year, next year, what would you see some of the opportunities and some of the threats that just in general in the marketplace MSPs need to look at? Is there new opportunities? They're like, hey, if you mentioned AI, if you're not doubling down on that,
Yeah.
at least internally, but like, where do you see the opportunities and where do you see the threats for MSPs right now?
Well, I think, we think that there's two main areas. One is definitely AI. And look, you could take that anywhere from just pure Copilot and just helping customers learn and understand how to use Copilot internally, whatever function they're in, whether it's IT, whether it's sales, whether it's, support functions, legal, HR, finance, et cetera. So I think that's a really good opportunity, and customers should be thinking about. So look, because most MSPs are already doing Office 365 support, so they're already working with the end user. So helping them become more productive is just a natural thing to do. And then the other aspect of AI and really thinking about, how do I allow customers to self-service and troubleshoot problems on their own with all the data that we have in terms of, our own ticket information, knowledge base articles from, the vendors that we're using as part of our tools and part of what we resell, but taking all that information together and let users kind of do self-service. And that's a lot of way that, consumers kind of buy their own individual products today and interact with support functions, whether it's an airline or whether it's somebody that might be working on their house, whatever it may be. But I think that they just want efficiency and speed to resolve an issue. And if we can enable them to do that, that'd be great. Then again, leveraging that for internal purposes for us to become a better operator, create additional margins, and reinvest into the organization. That's the next piece of it. And look, I think along those same lines, it's kind of an interesting thing is as we continue to become more efficient, as we automate a lot more functions, we're commoditizing a lot of the services that we perform today. So then we need to start to think about where is that next opportunity. A lot of it's going to be around security. A lot of it's going to be around maybe thinking about application support for customers and thinking about how they think about and understand where all their applications live, where all their data lives. Think about data integration, data governance, data security. That's going to become a very big aspect of it as well too. But, really don't losing sight of working with a customer, understanding their goals, and aligning how IT enables their strategy going forward. And then thinking about the solutions that you need to bring to the table to support them. If you're just being kind of that reactive 24/7, I get a ticket, I get an alert, I resolve it, I think I'm doing a good job, you're absolutely going to become commoditized. You're going to lose the value of what you're providing to that customer, and you're ultimately going to lose that customer as well too.
Yeah. It's like, I think it was Henry Ford said, I could be wrong, but it was what he said, we're not in the business of making faster, faster horses. He's like, if I went to my customers and asked what they wanted, they'd say faster horses. He said, I'm in the business of helping people to get where they want to go faster. So it's not
Yeah.
it's not a horse, it's a vehicle or it's a plane or it could be anything. So,
Yep.
I think that's kind of, and I totally bungled that. Someone's going to write to me and correct me, which is totally fine. But because I mean, how do I remember it all? But I think, yeah, I think what you're saying is if you stay in the vision of the customer and the ultimate goal is to help the customer get work done faster, cheaper, better, be more productive, make better decisions. If you know that's the business you're in, you're not really tied to the tech stack, if you will, right? And then
No, you
you're
should not
free
be.
to look at that.
Yeah. And the interesting thing about our industry is that the barrier to entry for new tools and technologies has become much lower, right?
Right.
It's constantly changing at a much more exponential rate. So you can't get yourself tied to any one particular platform. You have to be able to think about what's my business problem first, and how do I solve that with the skill set, knowing that they can use a lot of different tools and technologies.
Right, right. Now, what about threats? I mean, what do you see as things that you need to kind of navigate around as you move forward?
Look, I think staying abreast of the market in terms of technology, staying abreast of the market in terms of, I think, regulatory requirements as well too. It's constantly changing, so we need to make sure that we're being on the forefront of that and educating our customers how they need to think about, depending on what industry and what regulations that they need to abide by as well too. Again, the commoditization of the services that we're providing today, the fact that we know that some of the things that we believe create value today, 3, 5, 10 years down the road, will not be valuable to a customer in terms of the way that they think about our services. So we need to make sure, from a pricing standpoint, from a profitability standpoint, from adding on additional services that truly do add value, that's the way we need to be thinking about our roadmap and our services. So, yeah, that's look, there's, and maybe this is kind of an indirect kind of challenge, but you talk a little bit about PE firms and investors getting heavily into the MSP space. It's going to continue to happen. There's going to be more and more consolidation in this market. There's going to be a lot more mid-sized to larger players that are competing against very small companies. And I think it's going to be hard for a lot of the smaller MSPs to kind of think about how do they continue to compete and differentiate themselves. And I think that'll be a challenge for part of the market as well, too.
Yeah. Well, the MSP business is a complicated business. I have friends that are, in various different industries, from carpet cleaning to, construction or car dealer, like auto fix, car repair. And, everybody's business is evolving and changing, but I think the MSP business evolves and changes at a breathtaking pace because of cybersecurity, because of compliance, because of the technology that's just available, and you're trying to align those three, and it's always evolving. And so, what worked last year, you probably shouldn't be doing this year. You should be, if you're not like sort of having a different roadmap of saying, is that technology, that process, that whatever, is it still relevant? I think that's what's really hard about the MSP, because running a business is hard, period, full stop, no matter what business you're in.
Yeah,
and then you add this on,
yeah.
and it's like, holy crap, Batman, hang on. So I think that's kind of what you're saying, right?
Well, agreed. And I'll even maybe add one more point, is that small businesses do not have the ability to make a technology mistake, right? It could set them back. You can talk about set them back financially. You can set them back years. It can set them back competitively. And that's why I think, to some extent, they're very conservative. But then if they're able to partner with somebody that is able to show them kind of, quote unquote, what's possible, right? What good looks like. You can really enable them to kind of think about working differently and grow in a very different way than they have experienced in the past. And but again, if they run into an issue where maybe they don't have the right partner, they made the wrong selection of a tool technology, for whatever reason, it can really set them back, and that would be unfortunate, because it can significantly disrupt their business.
For sure, for sure. All right, I want to be mindful of your time, Mark. Is there any final words that you have or thoughts that you would share with the viewers of this, the MSPs that are out there in the marketplace?
No, look, it's a really fun space. I'll go back to what I mentioned before. It truly is a people business, and I think first and foremost you got to think about when you're working with a current customer or a new customer, you also want to make sure that you're aligned with them in terms of how they're thinking about technology, what you really believe that you can bring to the table. If you're not aligned then, and if the customer is really not excited about partnering with you, and ultimately you're not truly excited about partnering with them, walk away from that opportunity and really focus on the companies that want to do business with you, that want to invest in technology and a partnership that is going to help them be better. Because look, as MSPs, and I hope I'm saying this for most, if not all of them, we all want to feel good about the work that we're doing. We all want to make sure that we're doing better for our customers and helping them grow. And if we all focus on that and our people focus on that, it's a win-win for both sides of that equation.
Yeah, I do think that. I mean, the MSPs that I work with, they're almost generous and caring to a fault, like where,
I agree.
where they will like make less money or, in some way not do what's best for their company because they are so customer focused. I mean, yeah, they screw up and they make mistakes. We all do, but I do think
We all do.
MSPs, fall on the sword a lot more than they even should. I think that's part of sometimes I got to coach them like, all right, they're taking a little bit of advantage over here, so, but,
Yeah, no, agreed.
yeah. So, all right, Mark, this has been great. I appreciate your time so much. And I'm very excited to see what you do in the future. Maybe we'll be interviewing you next year and you'll be 3 times the size, something like that. We'll see.
Who knows, Robin? I appreciate you having me on. This good conversation. Thank you.
Thanks.